Dear Deputy Minister Botis, my boss, I'm glad you could be with us this morning in your busy schedule, and to all distinguished delegates. Exactly 10 years ago, we met in Durban, my hometown, and we launched the BRICS Think Tank Council. So as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the BRICS Think Tank Council, I think we need to reflect on the journey that we have traveled this past 10 years, together with the Academic Forum. The Think Tank Council and the Academic Forum have become powerful instruments within the BRICS family, what we refer to as the second pillar of cooperation. And I'm sure that over the next 2 days, we have here our leaders from the academic community, from our think tank community, and thought leaders from the BRICS family, that you will deliberate on the contemporary issues impacting directly on our lives. I always quote Thomas Friedman when he speaks of us living in the age of accelerations, that a number of issues are descending on the human mind simultaneously at an unprecedented level in human history. And we as human beings are having difficulty contemplating responses to these challenges that range from climate change, new technologies, biodiversity loss, more recently the pandemic, globalization, and of course major power contestation. All of these, I'm sure, will form part of your agenda as we look into how BRICS can shape the evolving new global architecture that's before us. We live in a very challenging time, a time of major power contestation, a very fractured global community, a very polarized global community, and we are seeing in the midst of all of this constant changing of alliances and allegiances in major power configurations. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, how does this impact on the global south? How does this impact on the African continent? How does this impact on BRICS, and how does BRICS respond to all of this? Very often we are asked about how BRICS continue to cooperate given the diversity that we have within the family of five in so many different ways. We are not a homogeneous unit. But yet our cooperation continues to flourish, and perhaps this year more so than ever, BRICS has come under the global microscope for various reasons. Almost on a daily basis, you are seeing writings from the global north, global south, think tanks, government entities on BRICS, and very often BRICS is being posited as a counterforce to formations of the global north. I think it's very important as the academic think tank community we correct these perspectives. BRICS was never formed in competition with any entity. It's not a counterforce to any entity, but it seeks to create, as Minister Nzimande mentioned yesterday, a more equitable, inclusive, fair and just global community, with especially those of us lying on the margins and continue to be outliers in terms of the global architecture, wanting to be part of shaping this new evolving order, whatever it's going to be. I always say it's very difficult to see into the future, perhaps more so than ever now, because the future is so shrouded in mist, it's very difficult to see what's going to happen in the next 5 or next 10 years. But we as academia, think tank, and thought leaders will have to project to help us as government to shape policy going forward and to make the right choices. One of the important things we have to focus on is the debate around expansion. You would have seen a tremendous interest from countries of the global south wanting to become part of BRICS. As South Africa, we took this Article 73 of the Beijing Declaration, and I'll urge you to please read carefully what Article 73 states. It says that we must start discussions on BRICS expansion, and that we should start looking at the guiding principles, standards, criteria, and rules of procedure in terms of expansion. That's what it asks us to do, and that the Sherpas should take this process forward. So I think it's important that we stick to the mandate given to us at the Beijing Summit, and we are busy with that process. But also, I think it's important that those countries that are knocking on the door, we ask them to be patient, because expansion is not an easy process. We all know this, and we'll have to go through it in a careful manner as mentioned in paragraph 73, through consensus, because that's how we function in BRICS. In South Africa, we have taken this process to be an inclusive process. We have had several roundtables with academia and think tanks in Johannesburg and Cape Town. We have a session next week in Durban. And we've also had a session with our business community, because we want to solicit the views of all sectors of society on what the future shape of BRICS should be and how we should respond as South Africa to this process of expansion. So colleagues, without much further, we have our keynote speaker this morning. We are very privileged to have Deputy Minister Botus, our Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, who's responsible for global governance and multilateral issues. Deputy Minister Botus has a deep passion for international relations, and he's very well versed in global developments. He's been a political activist from the time of his student days, a student leader, a leader within the province, Northern Cape, where he comes from. He's held several executive positions in the province. He's a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. He's serving a second term as an NEC member, and he's also a member of the Subcommittee on International Relations. So it gives me great pleasure to call upon Deputy Minister Botus to address us this morning. Thank you.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this 15th BRICS Academic Forum hosted here in South Africa, the land of Nelson Mandela. And I think it would fail if I don't emphasize the fact that we would like to be known as South Africa as the country that always on the side of the most vulnerable, because that was what the anti-apartheid struggle has been about. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I thought it's important to foreground my input this morning by just restating what is our foreign policy imperatives as South Africa. Those imperatives are encircled by 4 key aspects. Firstly, it acknowledges the Pan-African nature of the South African society. Secondly, it appreciates that we have an obligation towards the global South. And thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, it speaks about a conscious realization of deepening cooperation with a more industrialized North and the developed world. And the last but not least, which brings us here today, it urges us to increase the transformation of global governance institutions, with the United Nations being at the apex of that system, and to ensure that we transform your global governance institutions. The theme of the 15th BRICS Academic Forum are aptly entitled BRICS and Africa, a partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. That theme, ladies and gentlemen, is my submission. It's both aptly and timely as a way for us to pivot concurrent debates in the world about the importance that political sentiments and political expression must always be foregrounded by evidence-based research. So it puts increased obligation on this August gathering to ensure that political leaders express sentiments, makes public pronouncement based on evidence-based research. As we gathered here today, ladies and gentlemen, I suppose the current tectonic shifts that we are going through, not least being the war in Ukraine, poses some of the greatest dangers that we have faced as a world, in particular post the 1945 World War II. But it is my submission, ladies and gentlemen, that it also presents some of the greatest opportunity dividends that as BRICS member countries we should be averse. The COVID-19 pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, evidently has adversely affected us as BRICS member countries. In particular, the realization of the 17 anti-poverty sustainable development goals. It is therefore critical that by working together that we create a unique partnership that is mutually beneficial and one that promotes accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. It is my hope that over the next few days you will be exploring issues relating to research, innovation, and development, including, ladies and gentlemen, identification of opportune research opportunities, concomitant challenges, and the necessary policy frameworks and best practices for collaboration amongst BRICS countries. This conference must therefore continue to lay the foundation for examining the role of collaborative research and innovation in addressing our global challenges. One of the key areas of research should be the identification of innovative research opportunities that would help the development in all of our countries. It is my submission, ladies and gentlemen, that BRICS countries share many common challenges, social, environmental, economic, and political, amongst others. But equally so, it is my submission that through increased collaboration, co-creation, and integrated research, we can develop the innovative solutions required to address these challenges in the benefit of all our citizens. As you may be aware, ladies and gentlemen, there are many advantages to research, development, and innovation amongst BRICS countries. For an example, we have diverse and vibrant research communities with experts in a range of fields. By working together, we can therefore leverage the expertise to drive innovation required and to create new opportunities for the development of BRICS. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, collaborative research can help us to build stronger ties amongst our countries and foster greater understanding and cooperation. By the sharing of knowledge and expertise, it is my submission that we can build a more prosperous and sustainable future. The creation of new partnerships and collaborations amongst research institutions is essential because, ladies and gentlemen, this will enable the sharing of research information amongst experts that is critical for innovation and development, and it will equally foster increased openness, trust, and mutual respect amongst our people. We are aware about the pitfalls and inherent weaknesses When it comes to the question about research and innovation, we are aware and conscious, ladies and gentlemen, that the budgetary and public provisions made as regards to research and innovation differs amongst member states of BRICS. For an example, ladies and gentlemen, we know that the People's Republic of China, for an example, accounts for approximately 75% of overall BRICS country budgets for research and development. The question that the research should answer is, how do we maximize and leverage on that capabilities that presents us of having such a strategic partner in BRICS, and how as the People's Republic of China increasingly makes strides to building a more moderate, economic prosperous, and a common prosperity for their society, as other members of the BRICS partners, we are not left behind in regards to that very noble intent. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, the positives is that as a collective, the BRICS member countries possess the capacity through the academic forum and the think tank council to analyze better regional and geopolitical conflicts, wars, terrorism, and violent extremism, and the rise of populist right-wing narrow nationalism. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, and probably most important, this 15th BRICS Academic Forum must enable both the state and non-state actors of BRICS to analyze and understand better the increasing geopolitical space accompanied by anxiety, trends, and tensions in the world. And it is my submission, ladies and gentlemen, to this 15th Academic Forum, that this current tectonic shifts presents a defining moment in realizing a increased multipolar world and for a concomitant deepening of the multilateral system. I wish you all a productive, robust and engaging conference, and look forward to the outcomes of our discussions.